Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of Emerging Brands Podcast with Kelly Bennett. I am a New York City based brand strategist for food, beverage, and lifestyle brands. And one of my favorite things in the whole world is to talk with founders of cool emerging brands and learn their stories. One brand that I particularly love in New York City that I actually went for my birthday just this past weekend is Talea. I went to their tap room in the West Village, which is stunning. And Tara Hankinson, the co-founder and co-CEO of Talea, is on the podcast today. So, Tara, I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, and it's a huge compliment that you've already been a customer of ours. So thank you.
Yes. I've been to multiple locations. I always, when I'm out and about with my girlfriend and we love Talea, we'll buy it if we see it in retail and drink it at home as well. And I also went to your brand business plan event that you had at your tap room last year, which I thought was really cool. So I'm obviously a nerd. I know a lot about Talea. I've really been admiring, but I would love for you to share a bit more of the story of Talea, walking us back a few years now of how you all got started.
Sure, yeah. So Talea is a combination of my name and my co-founder's name, LeAnn and Tara. We met in 2018, and our path to meeting each other was a little circuitous. So LeAnn went to the Naval Academy. She served in the Navy for 5 years. She was stationed in San Diego and fell in love with craft beer because I think for her, it was such a contrast to the world of being in the military. I mean, craft beer is all about community and spending time together. And obviously, the Navy is a little bit more regimented than that. So she was homebrewing when she was living in San Francisco, working for Google, tried to work for a brewery, but ended up entering the beer world by working for a beer e-commerce company called Hopsy. And that company moved its headquarters to New York City, which is how we met. So she was the head of finance. I joined the company as the head of customer experience. And my path to meeting LeAnn, I grew up in Pennsylvania, but both my parents were New Yorkers and worked in food and bev in New York City when they were in their 20s and 30s. So I always grew up with an appreciation and a love for cooking really ornate meals and recipes and talking about wines and where they're from. So it felt very natural for me to take some wine classes when I moved to New York. And when I went back to business school, I pitched to Wolfer Estate in the Hamptons to work for them for a summer. I had a full-time job lined up, but I wanted to do something to try to get closer to beverage. And that internship for me was the catalyst to get interested in craft beer because I felt there was no craft brewery attending to female customers and creating an experience like wineries do. So for me, I knew I was craft beer curious, but when I looked around on the shelves and when I would go visit breweries, I just felt like I wasn't a customer that those companies were interested in. So I started homebrewing, moved from consulting to the New York Times, and then moved from the New York Times to this beer startup where I met LeAnn because I felt for both of us, it was like, let's keep one foot in the professional world and get one foot into beer. And within a couple of months, we were spending a lot of time together. It was long hours at a startup, and we realized we had joined the company for the same reason, which was we wanted to start breweries of our own. And that was the genesis of Talea. Like many great ideas, have a couple of drunk nights together, and you're like, I'm going to start a brewery. But we actually did. So
Incredible.
but that was the kickoff. We had our first product in market in spring 2019. And for that 9 months in advance, we spent building our business plan, doing all the market research, getting everything ready to fundraise because we learned a couple of things in that discovery phase. One was that our hypothesis that women were an underserved market was true based on the data. So only about 30% of craft beer consumers are women, but women were the fastest growing market in craft beer. And then the other thing we realized is that we really needed our own version of direct to consumer. So shipping beer, which is the business we met in, it was a beer e-commerce company. It for a variety of reasons, it doesn't really work. So our version of D2C is our tap rooms. We're getting really great margins on draft beers being sold across the bar. But more importantly for us, it's a huge differentiator. You can create a true experience, get people excited about the brand, teach them about the brand. All the reasons that people love brick and mortar is why we built our tap rooms. So our first space we opened in March 2021. That's our flagship brewery and tap room in Williamsburg, where I'm taking this podcast conversation from. And now we have 3 other tap rooms, Cobble Hill, West Village, and Bryant Park. So we have a big wholesale business. We're in Trader Joe's in New York, Whole Foods, Wegmans, and just launched in Target this week. So
Congratulations.
yeah,
I didn't even know about the Target launch. That is incredible. I've seen you all in Trader Joe's quite a few times and Whole Foods. I love how you just broke that down because it also speaks to some clear brand differentiators. Because I remember when I went to your business planning event, you were talking about how crowded overall the industry of craft beer is at this point. However, you found some really important differentiators. One, a craft beer business that was really geared towards women consumers, the way that you were also crafting your beer. So could you walk us through some of those main differentiators of Talea, and then a little bit behind how you communicate those differentiators at different times? I think so many founders get tripped up of, well, we do so many different things and we have so many different selling points. And how do I communicate that? And I think you all do a really great job of conveying the overall differentiator and kind of bringing in those different threads of what you all are doing. So I would love to hear your insight on that.
Sure. So we call or distill our mission into a goal of expanding craft beer beyond a typical craft beer drinker. And when you're building a business, you want data to back that up. The easiest way to do that is, the demographics that come through on Nielsen data and other data sources are basically gender and age. So for us, our Muse customer is in the 25 to 34 range and is a woman living in New York City. So we're always thinking about her and what she needs, what she wants. But we have 4 pillars that actually came from our original pitch deck that we exercise that brand vision through. One is the packaging. So one of the things that inspired us was how exclusive in terms of excluding women the craft beer world was. So, they're at its best, a lot of craft beers are very sporty or comic booky, and at its worst, you can have very sexist labels, like labels with, busty blonde women on them and called raging bitch or arrogant bastard. And it's like, I'm not taking that beer to visit my parents or to my friend's house for like girls' night. So our packaging is very colorful. It is gender neutral, erring sometimes on the feminine side. But when you think of the environment that craft beer is sold in, we wanted to stand out from all of the craft and macro beers. And your packaging is your only way of connecting with a customer when you're in Trader Joe's. They're not tasting the liquid. They're not talking to a salesperson who can help, or a bartender who can help convert them to buying your beer. The second way is the liquid. So when we started doing research, we discovered that, unsurprisingly, because there are so few women who are craft beer drinkers, women are largely drinking cocktails and wine. And what we decided is the best way to access those customers is by making sour beers, that a lot of which are inspired by cocktails or desserts or flavor profiles that are way more recognizable to someone outside of craft beer. So there's a lot of, once you get into the beer world, like the wine world, like anything else, there's a lot of coded language that helps you determine to know what's in the packaging, but we tried to make it much more blatant. So right now we have a spicy mango margarita sour. It tastes like a spicy mango margarita. Pretty easy to decide whether or not you would want that. And so we started a lot of sour beers and a lot of fruit forward beers just as a way to kind of create a gateway, a pipeline of beer drinkers. And then the other two are the physical spaces. So working with female architects, knowing that our spaces need to go from day to night because we open in the morning for coffee, people work from our spaces. Our peak periods are Saturdays during the day. So it can't just be a sexy bar vibe or a dive bar vibe. It doesn't work when you want to, when you're competing with all the other ways someone could spend a Saturday afternoon in New York City, you need to
Right.
have a space that looks great. And you need the hospitality and the comfort and the like the finishes that make that a great experience. Everything from the glass being a nice glass to, the staff being very friendly. And I think to tie it all together, it's the brand messaging and the voice. And that is someone who is speaking to our Muse customer. We think about this in the way we plan our social posts, and in particular, the way we plan our community events and our collaborations. So tonight, for example, I'm doing a startup 101 class for free here in our tap room for Women's Month to celebrate women who are interested in striking out on their own. Obviously, men can come, anyone can come, but specifically speaking to what it's like to be a female founder. And that
Right.
means, our tagline isn't Talea, we're beer brewed by women, but it's very obvious if you just go one layer under peeling the onion skin, that we are a woman-owned brand targeting female customers.
And I could speak to the space. It really is stunning. I remember my girlfriend first took me to your Cobble Hill location. And when I walked in, because she's very much into craft beer,
Mm-hmm.
however, I am still fairly new into craft beer, and I have always felt really intimidated. Even I was a partner of a restaurant. I've worked in food and beverage space as far as building brands, but even just going up to a bar to order, I actually still get a bit anxious just because I
Yeah.
always feel like people don't pay attention or I have to like I don't it always feels so awkward, and Talea was the first time I walked into a bar that I was like, "Oh, I feel comfortable here." Like, your staff was really friendly, they were really kind, they gave us samples of things, and it's been now a go-to when I have a business meeting or meeting a colleague or a friend, like, I just had a birthday. I met a friend and my sister came from LA and like she was like this place is great. And so it just speaks volumes of all the different things that you're doing because without even you breaking it down, I genuinely felt that in this space. And I really appreciate that because like you said, it's not just for women or that's not even in the tagline, but if you go one layer under, you could just get that feeling. And I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
people are really looking for and the way that you activate your space of different community events, clothing swaps, different workshops, even like I saw there was like a kids uh event and I was like this
Yeah.
is cool. This is different. So I really appreciate how you've differentiated and again like pulling those levers at different times. If you could walk us through a little bit of how the strategy was of launching in retail, tap rooms, now you have different partnerships I've seen too with different
Mm-hmm.
products or chefs. How are you all putting this together? Because it sounds incredible and exciting, but could you walk us through a little bit of the strategy behind that?
Yeah, and it's definitely evolved because for the first 2 years, we didn't have a physical space. So we were brewing essentially with a co-packer and then doing our own sales and distribution in New York City. So in that scenario, you're focused on getting into tastemaker accounts to know that you have great products. And then also focusing on high volume accounts like a Whole Foods where you're just accessible to many customers.
Right.
So now that's still part of our wholesale strategy. It's just that we are able to have this whole, like I said, our version of D2C, which is our tap rooms. Right now, we view wholesale as a profitable marketing arm. It's a way to get to build the top of the funnel, raise awareness of the
Mhm.
brand. We're really proud to be served in Danielle, which is a Michelin starred restaurant, but
Right.
also be a beer on tap at all of the Smith Group's restaurants in New York City and also be in Trader Joe's, because yes, we have 4 tap rooms. There are still so many people who are not walking distance to a tap room, and we want to meet our customers where they are. So we have a little bit of a different portfolio strategy where we're keeping consistent SKUs available for wholesale so that we can be on a restaurant's menu for the whole year. High-end restaurants set their menu on a quarterly or a biannual basis, and we need to guarantee that product's in stock. On the flip side, we're using our tap rooms as the place to get, the full suite of Talea. We have collaboration wine that's, white label, made in collaboration with us in our tap rooms. We usually have 20 to 25 beers available at any tap room, a lot of which you can't get at wholesale, or they sell out really quickly if you're going to bars, restaurants, and retailers. So I would say the tap room is where we're able to really immerse people in our brands. But at the same time, we want to be your go-to beer. If you're having a dinner party and you live on the Upper West Side, we don't have a tap room there. So then you can get us at all of these grocers that I just mentioned. And the collaborations, whether it's with brands like Olipop or Fly by Jing, which were late last year and early this year, or collaborations with brands like we've done Nike running groups where we do bag pickup or bag drop off, things like that. It's just a way to, again, broaden our reach, but also show our values through the people we're working with, whether it's another female-owned brand like Fly by Jing is an Asian American woman's brand that speaks to a different audience. And it's fun, honestly. Like, a lot of breweries collaborate with other breweries, but like, I am much more interested and challenged by how to make a collaboration with a sunscreen company, for example. Is it, creating a new pattern on a can, but it's the same beer, or is it creating a beer specifically meant to be enjoyed when you're wearing that sunscreen on a beach? I'm literally just making that up. I'm just saying it's a much more rich and dynamic collaboration than, you make beer, I make beer, let's make a beer together, which is what typically happens in craft beer.
I appreciate how you all have been doing the collabs and partnerships. I remember one was with a chef and it was like pasta inspired, just really fun things that, again, speak to that woman who lives in New York City, who wants to have cool experiences, who's a foodie, who loves just experiencing different food and beverage. I mean, that's one of the pros of living here, right? And you really touch upon that. I would love to know, what is the vision of Talea? Where are you all looking at or looking to? I mean, you've accomplished so much in already such short amount of time. I would love to hear what you all are working towards.
Yeah. So we just opened the 2 Manhattan tap rooms in Q4 2023. So the goal for this year in the near term is just continue to grow our tap room business, grow our private events business, and grow wholesale. So we just launched in Western New York, which is Rochester and Buffalo, a couple of weeks ago. So that's a whole new territory of beer drinkers who we would love to succeed in that market. But long term, we would love to replicate this hub and spoke model of brewing all our beer in Williamsburg, and then we deliver to our other tap rooms in other geographies. But alcohol regulations for breweries change from state to state, so we would need to find the right way to do that. And I think in the next few years, expanding distribution in a smart way, craft beer drinkers tend to care about being local. So we're not about to ship our beer to, Ohio or Nevada. It just doesn't make sense for us. There's still so many millions of people who don't even know we exist in New York City. So we really want to win New York and win our home market first, and then lots of other ideas on the brand and lifestyle side, but those are a little easier we don't need quite as much strategic planning for that. We can control that a little bit more than the distribution side of things.
I think that again, speaks to what you're doing differently, what you're finding that's working, and being diligent and consistent with that. I think so many
Mhm,
founders throw a lot of different things on the wall, but then keep trying to try different things where you all are like, no, this is working. So we're going to stay on course and see it through. So I think that is a really great piece of advice, also of being diligent, having a plan, doing your research, collecting data, and then expanding on that. What
mhm.
piece of advice, I just, you touched upon a great piece right now, but what else would you share with someone who's just starting out, maybe in the food and beverage space, who sees what you all are doing and like, "Oh my gosh, that is the dream." What would you
Mm.
tell them? What would you tell them if they're in, like, the very, very early stages?
Um, I think getting a co-founder is, well, it is critical for our business. Just having someone else to go on the journey with you to bounce ideas off of. It's easier to grow because I don't need to be two places at once because I have
Right.
LeAnn, which is great. And finding someone with a complementary skill set just lessens the burden. You don't feel like you have to do everything. I also think reminding yourself that no one knows what they're doing, you know, like there's a lot of faking it till you make it, even at this stage where you can do all the planning and look through all the data, but at the end of the day, you have to take some risks and just recognize that a lot of other people are in that same sort of guessing game stage. And along with that, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress.
Right.
You can belabor the name of your company or the packaging or this recipe versus that recipe or whatever for so long. And at the end of the day, sometimes making progress is more important than having everything 100%. So sometimes you just need to make a decision and move on. And I think that helps, especially women tend to be very risk averse and type A when starting a business. And that helps us avoid some hangups to just remember to keep moving forward.
That's a great piece of advice. And for so many founders that I work with in the early stages, that's one of the biggest things that they need to overcome in order to have a brand strategy and actually start implementing it. So, thank you for saying that, because I think that will really resonate with many people who are kind of going in a circle to hear that from you. Last question. Where, and most important, where can we shop Talea, go to the tap rooms, all of that good
Mhm.
stuff?
Yeah, so we have 4 tap rooms in New York City where you can find all the information you need at TaleaBeer.com or Talea Beer on Instagram. We also have a non-alc sour beer that we ship nationwide, and we ship all of our beers with alcohol in New York State. So you can find those on our website. You
Incredible.
can also find a beer finder that can help you locate the retail or restaurant store nearest to you that sells our beer.
Perfect. I'll put all of this in the show notes. Thank you so much, Tara, for coming on. This was a great conversation, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. See you, everyone, next week. Bye.